Hello everyone, my name is Anastasia and I'm one of the organizers of PyBerlin. Today we're having a special event, let's say like this, podcast of PyBerlin, and we are not only focusing on Python, but we are focusing on software development and project management in general. And today we have our special guest Franziska joining us. And we are super thrilled to get to know you, Franziska, and your experience. Could you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your experience?
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a people lead and a coach, and I also consult companies. And obviously, this was one of the motivations to invite me to this podcast. I work primarily in tech and with companies in tech. And also previously, I was in developer relations as well. So working with tech folks and enabling them is a big focus of mine.
Sounds lovely. What actually inspires you the most in IT branch in general, and why did you choose this focus exactly?
That's actually a funny story because I actually didn't choose to be in tech. It kind of came to me. When I was studying, I studied something really unusual, which is heritage management in my master's degree. And I was looking for a job and I knew that I wanted to work communicatively. So I basically got a job in on-domain community management. And via that, you would think that community management, well, this is primarily a communicative function. However, the company that I was working in was a startup. And when you have on-domain community management as your focus, you kind of in the role of a product owner. So you talk to customers, you talk to the community, and you translate requirements that they have to the tech teams in the company. And I really enjoyed doing that. And I kind of did that over the next years in various manifestations, always with a communicative focus though. And realized that this is actually a really nice environment. I really like this because of the dynamics, obviously. And also the fact that I think it breaks down to the people that are working there, because working with people in tech primarily, I realized that there is a high drive to build great products, to be innovative, and also observing that there is a high drive for progressing yourself and getting knowledge and so forth. So that was really nice to see, and that is what I think what continues to inspire me working in this environment every single day.
Yeah, that's a great inspiration for everyone. As you mentioned before, that you're a team lead and the coach right now, what does this role mean to you?
So essentially, I'm a people lead, and that has a little bit of a different definition to what would constitute a classical team lead, in the sense that as people leads, we are currently 6 in my company. We don't lead teams from the functional perspective. So we lead teams disciplinarily. And we have a dual leadership system where we also have functional leads who we closely collaborate with. But disciplinarily, yes, I currently lead 2 teams. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I led 3 teams. And in that sense, we have a big focus on coaching. So we have coaching sessions with the individuals in the teams, but also with the whole team, obviously, and making sure that the team thrives. And this is something that I so enjoy about this job, is that I get to enable engineers, designers, product owners, other folks to learn, to advance, and not just from a functional perspective, but from a professional perspective. In fact, as people leads, we have a high focus on coaching on professional skills. And in my company, we also have a high emphasis on that, which means that we do have, for the appraisal, for example, frameworks where we can see, okay, where is this person when it comes to active listening or teamwork or giving feedback, for example. So this is what I really enjoy doing on a daily basis. Again, you can clearly see the people pattern in this. And being a coach, I'm also currently finishing my coaching certification. I get to activate resources and people that are inherently in them. So coaching has very much the belief system that the people you're coaching, they have everything it takes. So they don't need to be fixed in any way, but they just are seeking for the right tool set maybe, or the right impulses to activate those resources. And ultimately, and that is what I think we've or at least I've discussed a lot of times beforehand, is that contrary to the stereotypes we're experiencing, people in tech are highly emotionally intelligent. So you have a very high level of communication and exchange between each other and towards each other. And this is what I really enjoy, getting to support people who are so driven and so committed and so interested also in not just making sure that their functional progression is taking place, but also that they can progress and develop from a professional perspective. So this is basically what my role means to me. And I do a lot of feed forward with my team members, and seeing that reflected with them, that fulfills me a lot.
Wow, that's so impressive, and sounds like a lot of work as well.
At times, yeah, but this is the thing. When it comes to people, this is where I love to, prioritize their needs, and making sure that they are listened to. Again, I don't believe that I need to take care of them in the sense, but that they have the attention and the support system that they need.
Wow, really nice. But how did you actually come to this role?
That's also quite a funny story, because I do have sort of a baseline plan, obviously, but life always provides you with crossroads. And I'm a person, I tend to take the unusual path in the crossroads. And end of last year, I was coming out of my role being in DevRel at Google. And I just knew that after all these years of experiences with communities and people, and that I had it in me to work a lot with people. And I was like, okay, what is this coaching thing? And pursuing that path and reading the literature and so forth, I realized that I was actually, or I had inherently been a coach for a lot of years already. I just didn't realize it. And I was like, okay, this is something that sounds really, really good and really complementary. And it also, I went on this journey to basically sharpen my skills and my observation skills, I should say, or my ability to support people. So I was in the process with a couple of companies. I looked into DevRel jobs as well, obviously, but I ended up actually finding Signavio, the company that I work at, because I had posted a job seeking post on LinkedIn. And then a contact of mine, who is now my colleague, saw it and posted underneath it and basically said, we are looking for people leads, you could apply. And we had a phone call, a preliminary phone call. I was like, okay, how does it look like? What is the company like? And he answered my questions. And then I handed in my application. I went through the usual process, obviously, and I ended up getting the job. And with that, I was also very determined to do my coaching certification. And I looked into, obviously, various offers on the Berlin market. Back then we didn't have Corona, so there was no worry about in-person events. And I ended up finding an offer in German that provided me with a mediation and coaching certification. So that was also really interesting. And I did this over the last month. I'm still doing this, and yeah, we had to maneuver all of the challenges, obviously, with being in a room together while there is a global pandemic going on, but it's very fulfilling. So reading the literature and acquainting yourself with the concepts and the tool set has really helped me also in my role. And I have to say, particularly the mediation aspect. And to summarize everything, for me, building up network is a very, very great way to find jobs and to find employment generally. It's basically, if you start from scratch, it's obviously challenging to do, but maybe going to community events now that they're happening online, following people that on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on other channels that you think are really are doing a great job, reaching out to people, jumping sort of over that hurdle. That can really build a solid and great network that can support you over time, be that because you're a freelancer or because you're looking for jobs. And I found that to be very, very useful to have that support in sort of my community, in the community that I've built up for myself. So whether you are a new starter, maybe after uni, maybe after vocational training or self-trained, or whether you are very experienced, my advice is build up network, because that's a very, very good thing to have.
What would you suggest to learn first for this people lead role in the future?
Oh, first, that first is always obviously you have to prioritize what you want to learn first. But I think when we look at when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, basically, my advice is that look into active listening. It's one of the best tools that you have as a manager, as a human being, as working with people generally. Um, when we look at active listening, it basically puts our whole concept of how we listen a bit on its head, which is good because when we break it down, active listening basically means that you first of all listen attentively without phrasing a response in your head already. That's what a lot of us tend to do, right? And we're already thinking about what can I say, what can I reply to this person. So first of all, listening attentively, then paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is an amazing skill, whether that be word by word paraphrasing or positive paraphrasing, which by the way is used a lot in mediation. And then as an ultimate step, asking for clarification, is that really what the person meant? And having this tool set really enables you as a manager to find out what maybe is an underlying motive or reason or anything that where you beforehand might have found it challenging to really support a person because you didn't really know what it was that you can support them with. So this helps you unearth these matters in a great way. And it also takes away your ego in a certain sense, because reducing the amount of attention that you put on yourself because you are thinking about that response already, because maybe you feel like, oh, I need to reply something smart. You actually don't. You don't have to sound smart. You don't have to be super impressive. It's sometimes the best thing, and it's absolutely enough, is just to listen and to give the other person the attention they deserve.
Wow, that's a really good advice how to start. I was also curious myself. And as you already mentioned that you were in the position of developer relations, could you please describe this experience as being a DevRel and maybe more what does this role mean to you and in general?
So I would say there are various types of DevRels out there, and because usually the average DevReler you find is technical. So they studied at uni or they taught themselves. In any case, they will probably code. Maybe not for the majority of their day, but they will code in some shape or form. And I was the type of the non-coding DevRel, and yes, they do exist, interestingly enough. So DevRel basically is a field that has a lot of expertises in it. You look at, for example, marketing, community aspects that are being picked up in DevRel. Developer experience is a big field. Project management skills are very useful. Sometimes DevRel overlaps with hiring, technical writing, or generally advocacy. So you have all these fields that come together in DevRel. And that is also one of the reasons why there is such a diverse set of folks working in DevRel. So for me, what made me go into this field was actually my community work and building up communities, knowing what works in communities, having this also on domain and PO experience, obviously. And then for other people, it might be a very different path. And I was actually, for this job, I was found on LinkedIn. Again, sort of the story of jobs are coming to me, but this basically is sort of the best experience. And they saw my community portfolio. They knew that I was really qualified for the position, and that's basically how I was placed, or how I ended up at Google, I should say. So for me, I don't think that per se DevRel is sort of the holy grail. It's as I said, one of the manifestations of community, and that's why I enjoyed it so much. But what I discovered while doing it was that, again, it's all about the people at the end of the day, and seeing people's motivation to create amazing events in the community, to create tutorials, for example, making sure that other people can learn, helping other people to get into the role, particularly diverse folks. This is so admirable. And at first glance, it might not be an activity where you say, oh, they are saving the planet and so forth. But that's not what it's all about. It's about the connections and the people that you have in this community and the shared experiences, and seeing all of these activities and seeing how they actually enable people to advance, to progress in their career, to get into the community, even to have just a support net. That is what made it so fascinating for me and so empowering. But I do think at the end of the day that it very, very much depends on the type of community and the way you are building it up. Because if people see that you're genuinely caring about them, even if you are maybe in a dev marketing role, that might be the case. But if they see that you genuinely care, then this will be mirrored in the community as well. And this will be the spirit, and this will be the torch that will be carried on between people. So at the end of the day, it's about people, it's about their passion and what they want to do and how you can support them best. And this is always what makes me feel very fulfilled, because I feel like if you follow your passion, I can support you about this, then it kind of becomes my passion at the end of the day. So this is basically how I would see the DevRel as a very thrilling and exciting field. And when we look at how can you actually get into DevRel, this is a bit more challenging, obviously, because there aren't actually a lot of positions out there. For me, it was, again, and I circle back to this, is building up a network, get active in the developer communities that are out there, maybe organize events yourself, build products yourself and highlight them, showcase them. There are people who built a whole DevRel career on open source. Get a social media following, challenge yourself to also sharpen your profile in the marketing sense, I would say. And also, obviously, you can be a DevRel without coding, but it helps, even if you are not, let's say, super technical, to know the basics and to pick at least one technology that you get really good in, or get a baseline knowledge in. And what is always really important is to have an inclusive mindset. You need to encourage diversity in this field, simply because we are still operating in a sphere where primarily we have one type of, or let's say a handful of types represented. And it's very good to think about how can you actually expand this, maybe with activities. How can you make it inclusive, not just in the sense of, let's say, gender diversity or different backgrounds or all of these matters. It's more about, okay, how can I make my products also accessible? How can I make it accessible to the community, right? Maybe there are people with disabilities and chronic illnesses represented. How can I, and then ultimately, yes, I can speak, how can I attract and speak to the women in the community? How can I have their perspective represented, so I build products that actually fulfill the needs of a wider community and a wider customer base, and not just have one perspective there. So there are many facets to this, obviously, and to ultimately basically do the full circle. I have one example of a colleague who had a very basically the classical career of getting into DevRel, because at first he was interested in speaking and having sort of getting exposure, writing content. And then he ended up setting up a DevRel group in Munich for folks who are interested in the field. And then he ended up getting hired by Huawei and is now a lead in the partner DevRel team. So basically, via these activities that sometimes are related to your job, but don't have to be, you are building a profile for yourself that makes you as a candidate attractive to companies in the DevRel sphere. And that's where things like network and marketing knowledge and so forth come in. But yeah, there are many paths, obviously, and each of us has their own path, and it's about what is your passion and how can you use it and leverage it to be able to have that DevRel career.
Wow, thank you for sharing this information with everyone. Do you think there are any disadvantages, or which advantages would you get while being a DevRel?
Yeah, disadvantages is actually a very hotly debated topic in the DevRel community, I would say, because at least before Corona, lots of folks traveled a lot. So I and my team, we traveled all the time. Why? Because we obviously wanted to be where the communities were at, so that we could, for example, speak or organize an event, or make sure that we just physically meet up with people and have that contact to people. But traveling takes a lot out of you. And in my case, living with chronic illnesses, it was very, very challenging over time. For other people, they thrive with traveling, right? So it depends a little bit on your outlook and what you are aiming for. So know yourself, and know what you are about and how willing you are to travel if the job requires it of you. And also, obviously, this being a public facing role, essentially you're a spokesperson. You are kind of, in the sense, a little bit like PR. So there is this expectation, obviously, that you are always cheery and diplomatic, and sometimes also to always have a good mood, right? So this, if that is your personality and you naturally bring that to the table, great. Or if you are in a situation where you feel like you can separate and segment those things, great. And at the end of the day, it's always important to let your personality shine through. If you are fake, people will realize this. I don't advise to be fake, or to follow that path, basically. But it is a baseline expectation that you do have some sort of, let's say, stage persona that you will probably employ in the DevRel sphere. And also, as I said, there are many fields that influence DevRel, that DevRel is based on. So you essentially will wear many hats. And you have to be comfortable with that maybe on one day you are writing a marketing strategy, and on the next day you will code for 3 hours, and so forth. So having that switch and having those perspective changes, you should be aware of the fact that this is something that might come up. On the other hand, there are a lot of advantages to the role. As I said, it's all about people, and you get to know fabulous people along the way. You get to know people who have trained themselves and are now leading 30 plus teams, and it's admirable, and it kind of mirrors off of you, and you feel elated just by learning and exchanging with them, and you get to encourage learning at the end of the day, and this is really nice. You are in the position to basically enable other people to learn, whether it's specifically related to your product or generally specific technologies. So you are a teacher in a way, whether you are actually presenting up on stage or not. And seeing this advancement also is very fulfilling. You are learning, obviously, yourself a lot, because you do exchange with a lot of people, with a lot of different people. You are always, specifically when you are in a DevRel position where you are supporting other people on a daily basis with how they solve or how they address challenges, then you will learn a lot yourself on this path. And you also get to see challenges through other people's lenses, which not a lot of people have the luxury. If you are in a classical delivery team, then you will probably see it maybe through the customer's lens, and that's that. And with a community surrounding you, or community that you're building up, you get to have loads and loads of perspectives represented. And at the end of the day, it's all about fun. Being at the events, maybe even partying at times. Yes, that also happens. Not that is the case every single day. And again, it was pre-corona. We are in a different situation now. You just get to enjoy yourself a lot. And as long as you are aware of the pros and cons, I feel like that's great. And then you can decide for yourself if that's a career that you are looking into, or that you're motivated to follow. And just get to have fun with all the fabulous people in the community surrounding you.
Sounds really interesting, but also challenging at the same time.
It certainly has its ups and downs, yeah. And again, I've seen people thrive so much in this career, specifically also on the traveling aspect. So that shouldn't be underestimated. There is a niche, and there is a place for everyone out there. And sometimes you just meet people and you feel like, yeah, they're the born DevRel.
Nice. Thank you so much. And to wrap it up, our interview today, could you please share one advice for our listeners?
I have to kind of circle back to my earlier advice because it's essentially the one that I will probably give to a lot of people. And that is basically the listening ability. Whenever you have to do with people, and we all have to do with people in some shape or form because we are all working in teams, really listening is a great skill to have. Not phrasing a response in your head when somebody is saying something to you, not placing your ego basically center stage, even if you're doing it unconsciously. Most of the time this happens unconsciously. And just fully focusing on what the other person is saying, immersing yourself into their experience, developing this empathy for what they are currently going through, maybe the challenges they have, or even the wins that they talk about, representing both sides. So this concept of active listening is a really, really useful tool and skill to have. So I encourage everyone out there, whether you are in a managerial position or whether you are in a team or even just in your family and friends setting, try it out, see how that works for you, and and reflect on the experiences that you had, and think about, does it maybe change some things that beforehand you have seen in a different light. So really, really listening, immersing yourself. This is the one advice that I feel I can give universally.
Thank you for this advice. It's my favorite so far. And thank you for letting us to know more of your experience and also all the advices you can share. And hope to see you in the next PyBerlin meetups. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you.